Commander Ilara Voss had always trusted her instincts, but as the alarm screamed through the hull of Artemis 7, she realized this time instinct alone might not be enough. The rogue planet loomed below, its jagged surface glowing faintly with volcanic activity. Her ship was dead in space, engines fried, navigation offline, life support bleeding oxygen faster than the console could measure. She was alone, or so she thought. Then they appeared. Ships unlike anything she'd ever seen, sleek, angular, and alien in every sense. The first scan indicated mercenary origin, no allegiance, no warning. Ilara gripped the console, calculating every trajectory, every possible outcome. Fighting was pointless, running impossible. And yet, instead of weapons firing, the alien ships began a slow, deliberate approach. "Human," a resonant voice echoed in her comms, not translated, but somehow intelligible. "We come to save you." Her first reaction was disbelief. Every encounter with alien mercenaries she'd read about ended in death or ransom, never mercy. Still, the instincts that had kept her alive through countless explorations told her to comply. She initiated the emergency docking sequence, praying the aliens would hold formation. Minutes stretched like hours. Then came the daring move. One ship deployed a magnetic tether, clasping her ship and slowly pulling it toward the safety of their formation. Her hands flew over controls, compensating for the violent jerk of the ship, heart hammering. She caught a glimpse of the alien crew through the translucent hull, tall, multi-limbed figures with armor that shimmered in strange colors, each moving with precision and purpose. There was no hesitation in their motions, no fear of the volatile environment, only intent. When the tether locked them inside the central hangar, Ilara finally exhaled. The alien captain stepped forward, a being whose eyes seemed to contain the vastness of space itself. No words were exchanged. A nod was enough. In that gesture, Ilara understood. This was not pity, not obligation, but respect for a courage they recognized, a spark they could not ignore. She spent hours in their medbay, the adrenaline ebbing from her body. Yet even as she lay on the sterile table, she noticed something extraordinary. The aliens were recording not data about her ship, but about her decisions, her improvisations, her resilience under pressure. She realized then that what they had saved was not just her life, it was her example, a proof of human ingenuity that would linger in their minds far longer than she could imagine. Before departing, the alien captain approached, extending a hand, not in friendship, but in acknowledgement. "You are unusual, human. Do not forget this favor." Ilara nodded, but she did not fully understand. She only knew this: a debt had been quietly recorded, a bond forged in silence and action, and in a galaxy ruled by power, such bonds could be more valuable than fleets or weapons. As her ship limped back to Terran space, she could not have known that years later, that same debt would echo across the stars, and every Terran captain would answer the call. Years had passed since Ilara Voss was saved. Humanity had grown bolder, expanding across the edges of explored space, establishing colonies on planets that once seemed uninhabitable. Technology had advanced, fleets had multiplied, and humans had earned a reputation for daring. But the galaxy had a way of reminding the bold that survival was never guaranteed. It began with whispers in the outer sectors. Entire colonies gone, communication wiped clean as though the inhabitants had never existed. First it was one system, then two, then half a dozen, leaving only silence behind. The Terran command scrambled to investigate, but satellites and scouts returned with nothing. No debris, no wreckage, just a lingering pulse of unknown energy.
Fear rippled through the fleet like an electric current. Then the first official distress call came, broadcast across every communication channel. It was not just a request, it was a summons. Every capable Terran captain was to rendezvous in the nearest secure sector for immediate deployment. Ilara, now a seasoned commander, felt the familiar stir of tension in her chest. This was no ordinary attack. The coordination and speed suggested a foe with intelligence, strategy, and a capacity for destruction far beyond anything they had faced. Meanwhile, far from human space, the alien captains who had once saved her were receiving their own unexpected signals. Some were memories, vivid flashes of a human who had outwitted impossible odds. Others were transmissions, cryptic and urgent, crossing space without explanation. Each captain felt a pull they could not ignore, a strange, unspoken loyalty to the human who had once changed their perception of courage and risk. For some, the decision was immediate. One paused in the midst of a high-stakes negotiation, staring at the memory of her face as if it were a prophecy. Another, whose pride had never bent for anyone, considered a course that defied the norms of their species. By the time the Terran fleets assembled, every captain of note had begun their journey to join humanity, not out of obligation, but out of respect, curiosity, and perhaps a sense of debt they had yet to fully understand. In Terran space, the scene at the fleet staging ground was chaotic. Ships of every shape and size crowded the docks, crews scrambling to prepare for war. Ilara moved through them with calm authority, her reputation preceding her. Reports of the attacks painted a chilling picture. Energy fields that could bypass shields, tactics that anticipated every standard countermeasure. The enemy was not just powerful, they were anticipating human adaptability itself. As the Terran command finalized the fleet's orders, Ilara felt a strange mixture of dread and hope. She did not yet know that the alien captains would join them, or how their combined presence could alter the course of the conflict. What she did know was this: survival would demand every ounce of cunning, courage, and audacity humanity had ever shown, and the echoes of a single rescue years ago might just hold the key to turning the tide. And then, just as the final coordinates were transmitted, the fleet sensors picked up movement in the uncharted sectors, ships emerging where none should exist. The battle, it seemed, had already begun. The rendezvous point was a jagged asteroid belt on the edge of Terran space, chosen for its strategic obscurity. Terran ships drifted between massive rocks, engines humming, sensors sweeping the void. The humans were tense, their fingers hovering over controls as they awaited the arrival of the alien captains. Each new blip on the scanner sparked murmurs, a mix of anticipation and suspicion. Then the alien ships appeared, sleek, alien, and utterly foreign. Multi-limbed crews moved with deliberate precision, their weapon systems humming silently. For a moment, the humans could only stare, unsure whether to greet or prepare for combat. Memories of Ilara's rescue years ago were unknown to most of them, but the captain's presence carried an unspoken weight, a reminder that the stakes were far beyond politics or protocol. The initial contact was tense. Aliens and humans spoke in clipped, formal terms, translating through universal comms. But cultural differences flared immediately. One alien captain demanded strict formation protocols. A Terran officer replied with human audacity, suggesting a daring maneuver that defied traditional strategy. Voices rose, tempers flared, and for a moment the fragile alliance seemed destined to fracture before it even formed. Ilara stepped forward, calm but commanding. "We're not here to argue," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We're here to survive. And to do that, we'll need every skill, every tactic, and every ounce of ingenuity each of us has. Respect isn't earned by standing still, It's earned in action." Her words had the effect of a spark on dry fuel. Slowly, the alien captains began to relax, grudgingly acknowledging her logic. They studied the Terran fleet, observing the humans' unconventional tactics, rapid maneuvers, unpredictable formations, and creative use of terrain. The aliens began to see what Ilara had always known. Humans were unpredictable, daring, and astonishingly adaptable. But trust would not come easily. Midway through planning, sensors detected an anomaly. One alien faction had secretly aligned with the enemy, sending reconnaissance that could compromise the entire mission. Tension exploded into near conflict, with humans accusing aliens of betrayal and the loyal captains attempting to mediate. Ilara acted swiftly, coordinating a counterintelligence strategy that leveraged both human ingenuity and alien technology. The first engagement tested the new alliance immediately. The enemy fleet struck with precision, expecting Terran fleets to act predictably. Instead, humans improvised mid-battle, luring the attackers into asteroid fields, disabling their ships with daring boarding operations, and using unexpected maneuvers that confounded even the technologically superior foe. The aliens, initially skeptical, watched in awe as humans transformed the tide of battle with raw creativity and relentless courage. By the end of the engagement, grudges were softened, suspicion faded into cautious respect, and a true multi-species alliance had begun to form. The alien captains now understood what Ilara had always believed. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, numbers, or firepower, but a spark that could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast even the deadliest opponents.
The void ahead was a storm of fire and steel. Enemy ships, hundreds of them, faster and deadlier than anything the Terrans had faced, swept into the battlefield, their formation perfect, their intent obvious: annihilation. Yet in the midst of their calculated advance, the humans and their unlikely allies waited, tense but resolute. Commander Ilara Voss hovered over the fleet's tactical display, eyes sharp, mind racing. "Stick to the plan," she commanded, "and if the plan fails, improvise." The first wave hit and chaos erupted. Lasers lanced through the darkness, shields flared, and boarding drones swarmed. Alien captains executed maneuvers humans could barely comprehend, weaving around enemy fire with precision. But it was the human crews, the Terran captains who had answered the call, each with a crew that trusted instinct as much as orders, who turned the tide. They exploited the enemy's overconfidence, slipping into asteroid fields, ambushing supply ships, and turning seemingly small maneuvers into devastating strikes. One human frigate, piloted by Captain Jalen Kaur, rammed a weakened enemy vessel, sending it spiraling into a cluster of asteroids. Another, under Lieutenant Mira Tan, disabled a weapons array using improvised electromagnetic pulses, a tactic so unexpected that even the enemy AI could not predict it. The aliens watched in awe, understanding at last that the human's genius lay not in technology, but in daring creativity and audacity. Mid-battle, the enemy tried a desperate tactic, collapsing a starship cluster into a controlled implosion to wipe out the fleet. It should have been catastrophic. Instead, humans and aliens coordinated like a single organism. Humans boarded ships to divert power, aliens executed precision maneuvers, and together they turned the implosion into a trap, drawing enemy vessels into the deadly gravitational collapse. Ilara's voice cut across the comms, calm yet electric. "They underestimated us. Never again." Her words became a rallying cry, infusing every Terran and alien crew with renewed energy. Where fear should have reigned, confidence surged. Where chaos should have broken the fleet, ingenuity forged victory. Hours later, as the last enemy ship drifted disabled, the battlefield fell silent. The combined fleet hovered amidst debris and shattered vessels, breathing in the aftermath.
For the first time, humans and aliens looked at one another, not as allies of convenience, but as equals forged in fire. The alien captains approached Alara individually, nodding with rare solemnity. "You are remarkable," one said. Another added, "Your species does not fight as we do. You fight as you live, unpredictably, with courage and loyalty. It is inspiring." Alara allowed herself a rare smile. "And it started with a single act," she replied softly, thinking of the aliens who had once saved her years ago. "One moment can echo across the stars. Today, we all answer that echo." Galactic news networks would later call it the turning point of the century. Humanity, aided by unlikely allies, had repelled a superior foe. But those who had been there, the Terran captains and the alien mercenaries, knew the truth. Victory had not been technology, not fleets, not weapons alone. It had been courage, adaptability, and the audacity to face impossible odds. As the fleets parted and each ship returned to their homeworlds, Alara gazed out at the stars, thinking not of glory, but of the future. Humanity had proven itself, and in doing so, had set the stage for a galaxy where courage, ingenuity, and the human spirit would be remembered long after the battle had ended.